Hello, and welcome to a Pokemon XD Gala Darkness video, where today we will be tackling the game with Cradily and Lileep. And if you haven't watched any of these videos before, this is the final in a series of prehistoric Pokemon. So if you'd like to see any of the other prehistoric Pokemon, go back and watch those as well after this one. Anyway, things to note about Lileep and Cradily. I don't think they're going to do nearly as well as most of the other prehistoric Pokemon, simply because it's more of a defensive Pokemon rather than, like most of the others, offensive. And I don't think its typing is nearly as good. But anyway, let's go ahead and get right into it. Cradily has 66 HP, 41 attack, 77 defense, 61 special attack, 87 special defense, and 23 speed, and gets access to a decent type variety, but not really all that great. Most of its moves are normal type, which is a little unfortunate, but it does have a couple rock type moves, a couple grass type moves, a ghost type, and a poison type move. And Earthquake's good. Now, of course, if you've seen one of the other videos, Giga Drain, I'm not exactly sure where it is, so I'm not even sure if I could get that move. So really, its only grass type stab is going to be Bullet Seed, which is a little unfortunate. But, I mean, I guess it's something for the early game. Anyway, our Lileep in particular has a jolly nature, raising its speed but lowering its special attack, which means that I might be able to get the jump on some Pokemon that are faster than me, naturally, but also my Bullet Seeds aren't going to be doing nearly as much damage. On top of that, I get the Suction Cups ability, which firmly anchors the body. It just means that I can't be forcibly switched out by moves like Whirlwind, so it's actually not going to have any effect during this run. And for starting moves, according to Bulbapedia, it gets Astonish and Constrict by level 10, which isn't great. So the first thing we do is we're going to pick up the move Mimic from the Tutor Lady, so at least we can steal a move that's better. And our first big challenge in this run is defeating this old lady. And that's because she gives us access to the TM Bullet Seed. And that's going to be our main damage dealer for the early game. And I currently have this video sped up 4 times, and I play the game at 2 times speed. So yeah, this is incredibly slow to actually take down any trainer this early on. So hopefully Bullet Seed actually helps a bit with that, but Constrict is doing very little damage. Luckily, I am actually tanky enough to defeat her, and eventually I get access to the move, which I teach right away, and it's going to be kind of okay for a while. Anyway, surprisingly, I didn't really struggle too much in Agate Village. Nothing really threatened me, and that's because I think I properly grinded to a good enough level to actually take down the trainers. However, with that being said, in this area I am completely walled at level 14. Unfortunately, I just don't have the strength to actually take down the easiest trainer. And even though I'm able to take down the Shadow Pokemon, I can't take down the Hoothoot because it resists all my Bullet Seeds. And that's why I do a bit of training and get up to level 15 and learn the move Acid. Now Acid's kind of weird in that it actually attacks both Pokemon. And if you didn't know, in double battles, if you attack both Pokemon with a move, it actually has a bit of reduced damage. I'm not exactly sure what that percentage is, but it does do a little less damage overall. Anyway, with a poison type move, I decided to try to take down the grass type Power Ranger, because I think I should be able to do good damage to him, but I'm already getting kinda low, and the Shadow Pokemon hasn't come out yet. And Shadow Wave actually does quite a bit of damage, so unfortunately I'm not able to beat him. And after a couple levels, I come back to the Brown Power Ranger, and I'm finally able to take him down. With a bit of luck. Acid gets a crit, and that's all I needed to take him down. And unfortunately, this is the only mirror match in the game that is mandatory, that I'm actually going to do. And goodbye, other Lileep. At level 22, I get access to the move Ingrain, and I replace Astonish, because honestly Astonish isn't all that great anyway. And we move right along to the first boss of the game, Lavrina. She leads with a Love Disc and a Beautifly. Now unfortunately I don't have good damage to actually take down the Beautifly at all, so I decide to focus on the Love Disc, and unfortunately it's not quite a 2-shot with Bullet Seed, so I'm going to have to use another to take it down, and I level up to level 30, so I might be able to take it down in 2 shots on the next attempt. Thief really isn't doing too much damage to me, so if it keeps doing that, I'll be fine. And unfortunately, Acid doesn't really do too much to Roselia, and it has Pin Missile, which is doing super effective damage. So I decide to copy Pin Missile, but before I can even use it, I'm taken down. So on attempt number 3 here, I'm actually able to make it to her last Pokemon, which is Delcatty. And unfortunately, it outspeeds me as well. And I decide to actually check how much base power Pin Missile has, but unfortunately it doesn't show it. So I just go for Bullet Seed, because I think it's a safer bet. And unfortunately I lose. Okay, well that's alright. I level up to level 36 to learn Amnesia, and I actually get rid of Acid here, which might come to haunt me later. Anyway, this is attempt number 8 now, and actually this took quite a few tries, but now with Amnesia this is actually going to be a first attempt. I go for Ingrain first turn, because I want to start healing. And then I'm going to actually use Amnesia this turn to raise my special defense. That way the Love Disc isn't doing nearly as much damage, because I'm planning on leaving it alive the entire time. I go for a second one, and the Water Guns are now only doing 3 damage to me. The Gusts are still doing a bit more, but now I can actually take down the Beautifly with the Gust I mimicked from it. And its Gusts really aren't doing too much damage to me. I'm able to take it down. Roselia comes out, and now unfortunately I am slower than all of her Pokemon, so this Roselia will be able to use Pin Missile. But my Gust is actually able to take it down in a single hit, and out comes Delcatty. Still the strongest Pokemon she has, because it's going to be using Shadow Rush, which goes around the Amnesia. And it looks to be about a 4-shot, unfortunately, so I just need to hang on and not get crit. In fact, I land a crit. Now, I decide to actually use Bullet Seed on it. I'm not exactly sure if that was the best move, but it worked, I guess. And one more Bullet Seed should take down the Love Disc. Never mind, it's still not enough. One more hit, okay. And I beat Lavrina on the 8th attempt, which isn't great. But anyway, moving on, you can't have a Pokemon XD video without the obligatory Mirror B. And I was actually afraid I'd lose this fight, but I didn't. And I now get to level 40, where Lileep will evolve into Cradily. Okay, it didn't evolve for some reason. And everything I read said it should have evolved at level 40, so I guess I'm just going to have to edit Cradily in. Okay, let me do that real quick. And with that, Cradily is now happy to see us, and happy to be here. Hello, Cradily. Anyway, with an evolution means new stats. It has 86 HP, 81 attack, 97 defense, 81 special attack, 107 special defense, and 43 speed. So, maybe I'll be able to outspeed a few threats, and probably be doing more damage across the board. So that's nice. Anyway, I pick up my 2 favorite TMs. Hidden Power and Protect, and I actually decided to pick up a few copies of each after last video. I'm not going to spoil it, but ouch. And I learned that it is Hidden Power Poison, so we're going to get rid of that immediately for Body Slam, because Poison really isn't all that great of a Hidden Power type, and I'd rather have the better damage of Body Slam anyway. So we move on to the next battle of the game, which is Snaddle, and Bullet Seed is enough to take down Quagsire in a couple hits, and out comes Lunatone. Lantern is going to be spamming Water Gun. Luckily, I am strong enough to be able to survive many of those, and I actually get a lucky 5-shot on Bullet Seed to take down the Lunatone in a single hit. I go for Body Slam to take down Castform. Okay, maybe not quite, I didn't think it'd survive one. So I decided to just go for Bullet Seed here to save on a bit of PP in case I need it. And yeah, Bullet Seed takes it down. Matang comes out. I go for Ingrain just to heal up a bit of health. And I probably didn't need to do that. Water Gun still isn't doing that much. Metal Claw is actually doing quite a bit though. Body Slam looks to be about a 3-shot. Luckily it gets paralyzed. So that's good. Another one. Metal Claw gets a crit and takes me very low. Water Gun really isn't doing that much damage though. I'm able to take down the Matang. And I think as long as I don't crit, that'll be a first try Snaddle. And one more Bullet Seed should take it down. Okay, well that was fairly easy, but also pretty lucky. I think if the Lunatone survived, it would have been an issue. Anyway, at level 48, I get access to Ancient Power, which I decide to teach over Amnesia. Which is because I think Amnesia isn't going to be all that useful anyway later. So here we are at the next battle. This is against Gonzap. He leads with a Fake Out Nuzleaf and an Electrode, who, depending on your type, will use a couple different moves. In this case, it's going to use Sonic Boom to do 20 damage to me, which really isn't all that bad. I go for Body Slam into the Vileplume. Luckily, I get a Paralysis. Sleep Powder comes out. But luckily in this game, you can just call to wake yourself up. So, not really that bad of a status effect. And I decide to go for Ingrain here, and this is the strategy of the run that I use primarily for a lot of fights to just keep my health up. Because I have the Leftovers item equipped, I can actually heal a whole bunch of HP every turn. And as long as I'm not taking too much damage, I can basically stay at full health all the time. Anyway, Ancient Power is going to be doing neutral damage against the Skarmory. And Hyper Beams really aren't doing that much. So another Ancient Power takes down the Skarmory. And I should be able to one-shot the Nuzleaf with a single Body Slam and defeat Gonzap on the first attempt. At the top of the pyramid, I get access to the move Earthquake, which I'm going to teach over Bullet Seed, because honestly Bullet Seed is a really weak move at this point. And we move on to the next battle against Gorgon. His whole gimmick is Earthquake, so one of his Pokemon protects, the other one uses Earthquake. Ancient Power is super effective against Celio, and Earthquake is super effective against the Laron on the next turn. Water Pulse comes out, no confusion. Nope. I go for Earthquake anyway, take down the Slowking, and then out comes his first Shadow Pokemon, which is Primeape. Now unfortunately it is faster than me, so it actually does a little bit of damage, but not really too much. And Ursaring survives on a Sliver, so it's going to be able to do a little bit of damage to me as well. I go for another Earthquake, take down the Ursaring, but not enough to take down the Hypno. Shadow Storm comes out, doing quite a bit of damage, but a Body Slam takes it down, and that leads us on to the last area of the game. So we're doing not great, but honestly, it had a pretty good mid-game. So let's go ahead and see how well it does in the last area of the game. So we move on to the rematch against Lavrina. Her whole gimmick is Attract, and unfortunately I'm not able to take down the opposite gendered Pokemon, so I do get attracted. But luckily I'm able to get through it and shoot off an Earthquake, taking down both of her Pokemon. Out comes Roselia and the Farfetch'd. And because Farfetch'd is definitely the bigger threat here, I take it down immediately. Out comes Altaria, her second Shadow Pokemon, and Pin Missile actually misses, so that's good. I'm able to take down the Altaria in a single hit. Pin Missile really wouldn't have done that much damage anyway, though, it seems. And an Earthquake takes down Roselia, so that's a first try. At the top of the mountain, I've run into Snaddle once again. I decide to go ahead and set up the Ingrain strategy right off the bat. Yeah, I lose a bit of speed, but there's a good chance I'm going to be outsped anyway, so it's not really too bad of a risk to take. Now, unfortunately, Quagsire does actually survive on a thread of health, so I am going to have to use a second Earthquake to take it down and take a second speed drop. But with that, out comes the Soul Rock. Now this thing is a little bit of a difficult thing to work around, because I don't actually have a move to take it down in a single hit, and it has Levitate, so I actually have to target it specifically. and Cast Form is going to be firing off whatever move it wants. In this case, it's Weather Ball, because of the weather effect up. I get an Omni boost off of Ancient Power, so I might actually be able to outspeed the Starmie, maybe. Probably not, though. Nope. Shadow Storm really isn't doing that much, though, so I'm able to take it down in a single hit, and I beat the Cast Form in a single hit, so that's a first try attempt on Snaddle as well. So we move on to Ardos. Now, usually this guy is pretty difficult, simply because a lot of his Pokemon can do a lot of damage very quickly, but I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue for Cradily. Anyway, I'm able to take down the Alakazam right away, and unfortunately the Swallow here uses Shadow Half, which halves all the HP of everything on the field, so I'm now down pretty low, and Ice Beam is going to do a little bit of damage to me. Hopefully it just doesn't freeze me, because I'm going to attack the Heracross here to take it down. And out comes Electabuzz. Now on this turn I plan on using Earthquake, but unfortunately I get crit, and I lose. So it's only taken a couple more. This is now attempt number 3, where I actually win. So yeah, not too difficult of a fight. It's just a little bit luck-based. But anyway, I take down the Alakazam as before. The Swallow actually doesn't use Shadow Half anymore because I've leveled up once. I actually get an Omni Boost right off the bat, which is kind of nice. Ice Beam comes out. And with that, I should be able to one-shot the Kingdra in a single hit with Earthquake, but I decide to actually take down the Heracross first, because it shouldn't be a one-shot anyway. Anyway, Fruity Pebbles come down. I go for Earthquake this turn to take down both the Electabuzz and the Kingdra, and then out comes his strongest Pokemon, which really is only strongest because it has one of the strongest moves in the game. Of course, it's only a 50-50 of hitting, so it doesn't actually hit this time, and I'm able to take it down pretty easily. So third attempt, not bad. We move on to Gore again, and he's still got the same gimmick going of Earthquake. So on the first turn, I decide to try to take down the Slowking right away, but I'm not able to one-shot it. On the second turn, I finish off both of his starting Pokemon with an Earthquake. Out comes Walrein and Aggron, and because Walrein's half Ice type, I'm able to take it down in a single hit. And now out comes his first Shadow Pokemon, which is Poliwrath. This thing always sets up Shadow Sky on the first turn. I'm able to take down the Aggron with an Earthquake, and actually able to take down the Poliwrath with an Earthquake, so that's a bit surprising. And with one more Earthquake, I can take down Mr. Mime, and move on to the next boss of the game, which is actually going to be the hardest boss that Cradily has to fight here at the end of the game. Anyway, I take down the Manectric right off the bat, because honestly, it's kind of a threat if it hits a Shadow End. And on the next turn, I'm going to use Ancient Power to see how much damage it does to the Salamence. And unfortunately, it's not a one-shot, so that's not great. And because I'm slower than both of them, I'm just going to be taking a ton of damage. So I decide to go with my old strategy, the old tried and true, Teach Protect, and I'm going to teach it over Ingrain. I like the Ingrain strategy, but it's not nearly as good here. And this is now the 5th attempt, because honestly, nothing changed too much. Anyway, I decide to Protect on the first turn, which is a little different, and that's because the Silver Wind only has 5 uses. So if you Protect on the first turn, 3rd turn, and 5th turn, you can only use it twice, doing way less damage. And because it's still a 2-shot on the Salamence, I am going to have to take at least one of them. But because it lands on the 6th turn, the Ninjask will start using Protect on the turn that I'm going to attack the Salamence again, which works in my favor. Unfortunately, I do actually take quite a bit of damage because the Salamence does do a lot of damage. And I actually get the Omni Boost here, which is really lucky. I go for Protect because the Ninjask is going to attack. And here's the second hurdle, is not getting paralyzed by Dragon Breath. And unfortunately, it survives on just a little sliver. It does get a crit, but no paralyze, so I'm able to take it down this next turn with relative ease. And then the third most difficult part of this battle is Marowak, because it is holding the Thick Club item, which doubles its attack stat, and on top of that, it has the 50-50 big damaging move that could potentially one-shot me. Anyway, I get lucky enough to not get hit by it on the first and only attempt it has, and I'm able to take it down, and then out comes Lapras, who probably shouldn't be a threat. It'll just set up Shadow Sky on the first turn, but luckily it's a one-shot, so it's not going to do anything. Ninjask delays its death, but after a couple turns, Ancient Power takes it down, and I move on to Shabaloogia, the big box legendary, who is faster than me, so I'm actually going to be taking quite a bit of damage before I go into the final fight. I decide to get a heal off, and take it down with Body Slam just to save on some PP for the final battle. And moving right along, we have Greevil. Now this is more or less just checking to see how everything is in check ranges. I'm able to take down the Moltres in a single hit, which is nice. Out comes Executor. Rhydon actually hits, doing quite a bit of damage. I go for Protect this turn to heal up a little more. And then I go for Earthquake. I'm able to take down the Rhydon and do a little bit of damage to the Executor. Unfortunately, what would have been a 3-shot is probably going to be less now because of the Tauros. It sets up Shadow Sky, and Tauros is a 2-shot, which is good. Now, unfortunately, I've put myself in a bit of a predicament, because if I take out both of his Pokemon at the same time, I'm going to bring out both legendary birds, so I decide to take down Executor, because I don't want to risk it gambling with the Shadow Ends. I'd rather take the consistent damage, because I'm not taking nearly as much from the Tauros as I probably would from the Executor. And now to see how much damage Ancient Power will do. Will it be a one-shot? Yes, and I actually get an Omniboost. That actually might be the difference between one-shotting Zapdos and not one-shotting Zapdos. And luckily, it just happens to be on the turn that the Shadow Sky ends, so Tauros is actually going to set up Shadow Sky, allowing me to one-shot the Zapdos without any issue. And I'm actually able to take down the Tauros and beat Greevil on the first attempt. And honestly, that felt like a perfect level for it. I think it was a nice balance of difficult, but not insanely challenging. So I think that's a pretty good level, honestly, 83. So with that being said, let's go over its stats. It finished the run at level 83. It had a finish time of 14 hours, 27 minutes, and 48 seconds, which definitely isn't all that great. And it fainted 34 times. Now most of those were to bosses and very early game enemies, and I think it's pretty clear where it lands. It was a little slower than Delibird, about 30 minutes slower. And while Delibird had a much higher level, it also fainted about the same amount of times, and it was 30 minutes faster, so I think between the two I'll give Delibird the upper hand here. But I think Cradily, despite the fact that it's very much a slow defensive Pokemon, and yet despite that, it actually ended up beating the Bulbasaur line, which is kind of surprising. And while it's not nearly as good as any of the other prehistoric Pokemon, I think it's still fairly decent. It's definitely not the main lead that you have, though. Anyway, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing and liking, and if you have any suggestions, put them down below. If you have enjoyed the Prehistoric Pokemon series, thank you. Bye.